Hey guys, this is Julian of Julian Gray Media, and welcome to today's stream. Today is another Fix Your Project stream. If you're not familiar with these streams, we basically every month for my patrons over on Patreon do a monthly live stream where you guys from the community can submit project files, and I will work on them on the stream and give you my critique and give you things that I think will make your project better without, sending in a SoundCloud demo and just me getting a surface level look at it. I want to give you more deep feedback and actually work on the song to make it better instead of just surface level feedback. So today we have 3 project files coming in hot from the community. We're going to hop into them over the course of the next hour or so. Say hello, everybody in the chat, if you're there. We have 2 people just came in. Vestia and Storm, welcome. We are live on both Twitch and YouTube right now. The chats will be consolidated on the screen. So we have 3 project files today, and then after this call, we also do a monthly meetup over on Discord in my Discord community, discord.gg/JulianGray. And if you're a patron of the channel, you can hop in the chat there and meet up in our monthly meetup call. It's a great time. We have a great community of people. And one last thing, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you can get the latest updates on videos and streams like this. It helps the channel a lot and helps me a lot. All right, so without any further ado and further sitting around, why don't we move on to the project files of the day, the focus of today's stream. We have 3 today, as I said before. If there's any more submissions from the community, let me know in the chat, and we might be able to squeeze them in towards the end. All right, let's go on. All right, so today we have these 3 projects, as you can see here. Dustin Rosada submitted a project called Phenomena. Storm submitted one called Something Somewhere. And the third one doesn't have a name on it, but I'm sure if you're in the community and you're watching the stream, you'll let us know when it's your project. All right, so we're going to start out with Dustin Rosada. I'm going to unzip this, and we'll get it open in live 10. Hopefully today we won't have any audio issues like we have had historically. I think we're going to be fine. Let's go ahead and open it up, and we'll get this thing going. Welcome, Pine Wine. Welcome, Wickwire. Some familiar faces here today. How is your Sunday? Or how was your weekend, man, I should say. It's been a great time here in LA. It's about 68 degrees. Beautiful outside. It's been raining, so we have a lot of greenery. And finally, the spring has shown its face. I'm opening the project here on my second monitor. Got to pull it over whenever we get Ableton's open. It's been a really nice time here in California. I've been very busy this week, going to shows and going to parties. If you're familiar with Villager, his birthday is coming up this week, and we had a birthday party for him last night, so I was out pretty late. Got home earlier than everybody else, though, so I'd be ready for the stream this morning. All right, so I've managed to open up the project file. This is Dustin Rosada main theme. I'm going to go ahead and expand this into my monitor here so you can see it better. And then, we'll check out the project file and then move on to the others. So let me make sure my sound is working. I want to make sure that we're not losing our audio here. This is always a problem with these streams. We somehow always manage to mess up the sound. So I think today this should work. If we cross our fingers and hope. Can you guys hear me still? You should be able to. I just want to confirm audio issues out of the gate as usual. Should be good to go though. Pine Wine said East Coast has had great weather too right now. Happy birthday, Villager. Yeah, he's a great guy. All right, let's check this thing out. And if the balance is off, let me know in the chat so I can turn things up or down accordingly. Nice. Super nice. Tense. Oh, it resolves. There it is. Nice. Happy Sunday, Dustin. I think I'm gonna let this play into this next chorus here, and then we'll stop it. Sounding excellent, man. Oh, nice. Switch up into breakbeat. You got that cool tremolo pad effect on the vocal. It's nice. All right, I think I get the sense of the record here. Really nice work. Really beautiful melodic ideas. I love that tremolo thing you added in this last verse or last chorus or what have you. Last section of the song, I should say. Overall, it's a really nice song. I love the chord progression. I like the sound selection you've chosen. I think that many of my critiques on this are going to be mix related. However, I think the one critique I have is you switch into breakbeat here at like minute 3:40. It feels like a very arbitrary decision. Like it doesn't feel very intentional. if you're going to do a genre change like this, I think you should do it at a big climactic moment, like where you're building up into a drop and then you drop into breakbeat or something. This kind of happens randomly. I personally, I mean, I used to do this a lot, so I can't really talk, but I was very into like, genre changing a few years ago. But I think that, at least in my opinion these days, you're better off to like stay on the same groove for the duration of the record and then have like an alternate mix of the song, like a breakbeat cool down version, or like or vice versa, like a chill out house version and like a breakbeat version. Just because I think that if you lock into the groove of one drum pattern and then you switch it up, it can be a little bit jarring for some listeners. Just in purely like purely from the political sense, like in terms of like maintaining your listenership. I encourage you to do whatever you want in terms of creativity, but I think that if you wanted to, keep people's attention and make sure that they, appreciate the entire song, I would break it up into two versions so that one could get to the breakbeat idea faster in like an A version, and then two, you don't like alienate people who are really digging the house vibe in the second verse in the B version. So that's just one thought I have. So that's like my only big critique on the arrangement. I think that you've done a really nice job in the chord progression and the bass and that sort of stuff. The drums feel good. I wanted to take a quick look at your mixing, and if you've seen the stream before, guys, this. I do this every time. I bring in a span from Voxengo, which is really good for monitoring your audio spectrum in terms of frequency, and then we are going to bring in Pro L. I'm actually going to use the limiter feature of it. I'm just going to use this for its volume monitoring or gain monitoring over time, which is much easier than like printing the audio out. All right, so what we're going to do is just play through maybe some of the key sections of the song. I want you guys to look at these, and we'll see if we can find anything that we're lacking. So this is the intro. And intros are typically pretty barren, so this is fine. So the one thing I like about Span is that you can very easily identify in high resolution like the volume discrepancy between frequencies. So I think that you can see even like the least trained eye can see that this instrument is louder than everything else. And whether or not that's a bad thing is up to you ultimately, but it's just a very easy visual indicator that, you have this volume discrepancy or disparity. So to me, like in my ear, these vocals felt a little bit loud. And this is just a good, indicator that is a valid, point. Maybe you can't rely on your ears as much. It can be really useful to have that, that visual cue, visual indicator. So I'm going to turn that down slightly. I think that these should be bright and in the front because they are like the lead vocal. But maybe not this hot. So if we look, let's pull down like 5 decibels-ish. Maybe not even that much, like 3. And yeah, even just that, we've reduced the dynamic range a little bit, and it's really brought them into the mix more. So let's look at the master again. So in our drop, we're still seeing that same discrepancy here. So like I'm gonna hit hold. This is more or less what our drop is looking like, right? So we have this really loud mid element here. Our bass is kind of quieter, and this is a culmination of your kick and your sub and bass. So in my opinion, this should be at least to the level of your loudest element. But the easier solution would just be to pull this stuff down to here. And now this is highly subjective based on the genre and what your target is for mixing. This mix right now has this inherent like 90s feeling to it because of this like mid-centric focus. It almost feels like a Kingdom Hearts song or something. Or like something from that era of dance music. And if that's the intention, then you've nailed it. But in my opinion, in modern mixing, you don't want to have like your mids be blasted out compared to everything else, unless you're going for that as like a sonic decision. A good example of that is like Virtual Self. He does this sort of thing as well. So anyway, I think that with that in mind, if we just, in the drop section, turn up the bass a little bit and maybe our kick, so we have some low end, it might counteract some of the overabundance of mid. So this guy here, just bring it up like 2 or 3 decibels, I think. Kick could come up 2 or 3 decibels too. I'll be a little bit more generous with the kick because the kick should be ahead of the bass. Okay, so now I've added some kick and bass, and let's go ahead and take a look now. So you can even see now, just based on those like 3 or 4 decibel difference, how much the song sounds fuller now, and it doesn't sound as like boxy, because we're basically balancing out the volume of the low frequencies with the volume of the mids. So excuse me, we've resolved the low end sounding dated, or like 90s-esque. Rosada says 90s house, but I like making things modern. Already has the 90s house feel regardless with the bass tone. Yeah, I agree. So let's mix this thing modern, and you're still not going to lose that feeling. It's still going to feel modern even with that. So I think that that's resolved the low end and the mid balance. It's not perfect. Like the mids could still probably come down a little bit, but there's like this roll off of high end now. So the high end is lower than everything else, and that's giving this like this inherent, like, again, like a PlayStation 2 kind of sound, because those consoles use like this compression where you would basically chop off some of the high end for the sake of data storage on a disc. It's the same for like internet music from the 90s, like a really low bitrate MP3. It has this inherent like 90s feeling to it because of this basic master sonic shape that is applied to every song, and that's just a reduction of high end and basically a harsh roll off at like 15K. So you're kind of implying that because of the shape we have here. So see how like the high end gets progressively quieter. You have a small little bump here at like 6 to 10K, but then it dips right off at 15. If we wanted to evade that like 90s feeling even more, if we just added a little bit of high end to the whole track, you could probably do this on a track by track level, but I think a simpler solution at this point, because you've already mixed it like this, would just be to take an EQ on your master and do something along these lines. Just on a master level, give it like 2 or 3 decibels above like 1 or 2K. See how like it feels like it opens up? It's almost the difference between like a WAV file and a highly compressed MP3. It's all in the high end. If you're ever like trying to sonically create the feeling of like the 90s or the 80s, and you want to really like make it feel like that era, even if your music is not, a surefire way to do it is a high cut. If you remove the high end, it's going to feel muffled, and it's going to feel like it's from like a tape or a really compressed CD. So there's without it. And it's a subtle enough change, but it's more of a feeling. It's not like a huge sonic shift. It's the feeling of almost like cleaning your ears out. We can exaggerate this further so you can really tell, but you know, if we give it 5 decibels here, it's like that feels like early internet, right? And then opens up and it's clear and crisp again. This is probably too much. Like I said, maybe like 2 or 3 decibels. That's about as much as I would do. And this is a Band-Aid solution. I mean, as you get better at mixing, I would suggest doing this on a track by track, but I think that something along these lines is going to make your sound feel less antiquated, or your song feel less antiquated, like of the 90s or whatever. And it's also going to make it feel more present and have more bite. So we've done a balance check here. There's still this abundance of mids, maybe on that master EQ too. If we just pull out a little bit, like around, I don't know, 3 to 800, maybe 1K, something along these lines. So we've more or less flattened it out now. If we were to just turn this off now, you'll see that. It's definitely flatter than it was, especially with the bass turned up. So we've looked at the spectrum balance between all of the frequencies. Let's go ahead and look at the gain now. And with this, we want to make sure that our kick is loudest, our bass is second loudest, and then maybe our key lead instrument is loudest, which is, I think, that mid pluck that we've already done. I think that is like the main lead, as it were, the vocal, and I'm sorry, not the pluck, the vocal. That's like a mid sound. Yeah. So let's go ahead and take a look at our master gain here. I want to compare how loud our kick is to our bass, for example. It's at -6. Let's go ahead and take a look at our bass. If I can find it. It's not that. There we go. So let's go ahead and like turn this on and off. So you see how our kick is at -6 no matter what, and then when I bring our bass in, it's louder than the kick substantially. That's going to be an issue in your mix. You always want your kick to be louder than your bass because you want the prevalent like sub energy to always be hitting on that forward of the floor pattern. You don't want it to like, you know, just meander, which is what the bass, being the loudest element, will do. So what we can do is just adjust the balance here. I pulled the bass up because it was quiet. I think if we're going to do anything now, it's just to add the a little bit more kick. Let's go ahead and add like 2 or 3 decibels of kick. And let's go ahead and compare again. Let's get rid of the kick and see where we're at. So our highest peaks are hitting at like -3. Our lowest peaks are hitting down here at like -9, maybe like -10. So what I want to do is actually compress the bass bus so that you have a more uniform bass channel. Oh, bye. So that we can actually place it comfortably rather than fiddle with trying to get it placed. So what I'm going to do is apply a compressor or a clipper. Use a compressor for now. It's easier. And just to set the ratio all the way up. Use it as a limiter almost. And I want to make sure that this is pretty flat. Let's go ahead and look at our master now. So I do not want this to be hitting the limiter too hot. So I'm going to actually turn this down a bit now. But let's go ahead and look at our master. We're still getting some peaks coming in really hot. I think this might be best actually with a limiter. Let's go ahead and set the attack to 0 so it's cutting immediately on the compressor. So compare that now to this. See how much more dynamics there is to the bass? You're going to have a much less full bass if your bass is not hitting at the same volume the entire time. So this is helping that a lot. Get a little bit less generous with the cut. It seems like you have a very big stab at the front of the sound. I would reduce that personally just so that you don't have to really destroy that initial transient. That's sounding much better and fuller to me. So let's bring in the kick now. And then take a look at our Pro L now. And let's compare now. So our bass is hitting consistently at like -6, right? And if we bring in our kick is hitting consistently at -3, -2. And therefore, our kick is louder than our bass, and our low end is solved. Pretty cool, huh? So, let's go ahead and hear that in the mix now. And you probably want some sidechain after this. I notice you have a kickstart on your individual channels, but I would put it on the bus after you've done this bus compression, so we can first flatten out our dynamics and then introduce the dynamic changes, that you would require for a sidechain. All right, so that's sounding better. Really quickly, I'm going to add a sidechain just so that we can make sure that we're ducking on the kicks. And yeah, I think we've made some nice progress on this song. Let's go ahead and do this. So I've shown you the tools that you need to use when you're assessing your mix and master. I think that was a really crucial part of this, is like to identify the actual problems. And then also like how you can use those tools creatively to make a more interesting creative decision rather than being at the will of like the spectral balance or whatever. So hope that was helpful. And yeah, I think that will do it for the phenomena main theme. I hope that you got something out of that, and we'll move on to the next project. Everybody in the chat, give Dustin Rosada a nice little clap, maybe a clap emoji or something, so that he knows that he is appreciated. Very cool record, man. I hope that was helpful. There's a lot more I could do to it, but I want to move on for the sake of time. All right. All right. Claps all around. Pine Wine Storm. Amazing. We got one viewer over on Twitch, just carrying on. If you're over on Twitch, give us a comment so we can see you on the screen. It would be good to know who you are and that there's somebody out there. All right. Let me make sure this is saved correctly, and then we'll move on to the next one. Okay, so next up we have Something Somewhere by Storm. And Suvi was saying that he'll have to submit next month. I didn't freeze my plugins properly. I will attempt to open them, and if they don't open, then we can move on, or we can do it next month. But if they do open, then we can see what we can do with it this time. Okay, so this is not a Live 10 project. This is, in fact, a Live 11 project. All right, Live 11 is opening on my second display. Will be open in a moment. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Here we go. And yeah, here we are. So this is Something Somewhere by Storm. Let me know if you're in the chat, Storm, still. Excited to check this one out. Let's go ahead and make sure our sound is working, and see how this goes. Here we go. Huh. Yeah, it's coming from my PC. There we go. Should be better. All right, let me know if you hear that. Must be missing your mastering or something. Yeah, I think we've been through this before. I'm missing your isotope, so I have to mute that. I have isotope ozone 9, but the fact that they do the elements version, I don't have that. Very weird. Funnily enough, I think this song has the same exact spectral imbalance as the last one. A lot of mids, not enough low end. Highs feel nice and sharp on this one. Sorry if the master isn't very good. Allergies killed my ears this weekend. No worries. That's what we're here for. So you got a lot of that mid stuff going on. I definitely want to address that. Really enjoying the arrangement. I think that was the majority of it. Yeah, it just kind of ends. So I think that this one is a very similar case to the last one. I think that majority of what we're going to address is mix. The actual writing is nice. I'm not hearing anything terribly wrong. There's a few chords that I think maybe could be a stronger selection, but I think you're going to get the most out of a little bit of mix help. So first and foremost, it's great you have span already preloaded. I think you're on the right track here. Your bass sounds good. Your highs sound crisp and nice. The mids are quite loud, substantially louder than everything else. That is my biggest concern. Especially trying to identify where that is coming from. Let's put this over here for a So I have a feeling this is actually where it's originating from. Let's go ahead and take a look at these really quick so we can deduce whether these are contributing. I think it is just that. All right, if it is just this, then what we can do is just either turn this down or compress it so that we can confirm that, this is not the issue. Let's go ahead and disable it really quick and see what it looks like. So there's still a little bit of discrepancy here. You can probably identify that. But I do think that this is the majority of the discrepancy. So what I want to do for this guy is to take a quick look at the volume over time. Again, Pro L is my favorite for this. It's really not designed for this, but it's a really good way to monitor your volume over time on a track-by-track basis. Yeah, okay. So this is hugely dynamic. It gets really loud at certain points and less loud at others. I'm assuming there's a lot of like automation on this. Yeah. So it's fine to have dynamics, but I think this is a little bit too much. What I want to do is tame some of the volume discrepancy here, so you don't have like this section here that's like -6, and then the rest of it's like clipping over 0. And what we can do for that is just, basic compression, so we don't have such a dynamic sound to our harps. And what I'll just do is I'll play it for a moment. Let's dial in a good spot for the compressor so it's not completely obliterating your peaks, but it's also bringing up some of the quieter sections. It's probably somewhere around this range. If we look at the peaks here, that's where you're sitting at average. When we get into our really hot sections, let's see where we end up. So it's getting quite hot. Let's make the attack 0. kind of hits back to where it was. So yeah, I'm just going to do a little bit of compression here. That was a big part of it, I think, just to make sure it sits flat. And when you have a sound that is completely, flat, you don't have that huge dynamic range in the volume, it's easier to place in the mix, because when I get to these really loud sections that we observe on Span, where you have those mids that are just completely blasted out, like to 0 or above, like clipping, and then there's sections of the song where that sound is extremely quiet, my gut is in the chorus is to turn the sound down so that you're not getting that super blasted out mid, so you have a more balanced entire spectrum. But my gut in the breaks is to turn it up because it's quiet. So in order to do that, you either manually automate your volume, which can be nice if you want to maintain some of that dynamic range, or you could compress like I'm doing so that you have slightly less dynamic range than just the bass sound, and then you can actually place it with a fixed volume much easier. So what I'm doing is I'm basically flattening this out to the point that, it's not as dynamic anymore. If we were to look at this now on our Pro L, you will notice that this is no longer as dynamic, and that's going to be very helpful for placing it. Let's go ahead and load this up, pull it in, boop. It's more or less flattening out a lot of those peaks. It's not quite, flat across the whole thing. That's what like a limiter or a clipper would do, but it's flatter. You'd probably get it even further if we were to take like the release down. Or I'm sorry, release up. And, we could also increase our ratio as well, so we're cutting even more of the peaks off. Let's go ahead and see how that sounds. It's definitely flattening out more and more as we increase the ratio. If we max this out, you'll get a very flat curve. But this is essentially a limiter. You could do this with a limiter instead of a compressor. Maybe let a few of the peaks through. But yeah, so now if we play this into the mix, let's go ahead and take a look at what this does. Let's see if it addressed the clipping problem. Still quite hot. It's at least not hitting up to the peak anymore. Oh, I guess it is. Maybe there's a secondary layer that's contributing to that mid as well. I have a feeling there is. Let's see. Oh, right. I didn't turn it down. That was my whole intention of compressing it. Let's bring it down like 3. Hey, Zin, how you doing? Got Zin in the chat. Amazing producer. Let's go ahead and try this with a limiter instead. It might make our life easier. And again, we're only using Pro L as our as a volume monitor. I wouldn't suggest using it on a bus level. So let's give this like 2 or 3 decibels here. Or actually, rather than that, I'll pull the ceiling down. Maybe like -5. go ahead and take a look now. It's preventing it from getting too hot. I'm curious if there's like another layer to this. I think also if we add a little bit of low end, it'll help balance this out. I think there's another layer to that high mid, but I'm struggling to find it. Yeah, because it's still hot even here. Okay, got it. Let's bring in an EQ. And let's take a look at this one. I think this has a similar problem. A lot of the mids here. And let's bring in the Pro L again, so we can compare the volume over time. And I just want to take a quick look at our dynamics for this element as well, so we can see if this is way too dynamic. Okay, so that's pretty consistently loud. That's fine. Doesn't need anything. Going well, having some tea, and saw the stream was live, so figured I'd pop in before I opened Ableton myself. Well, thanks for coming. Okay, so I think that if we bring up the bass and our kick slightly, it will help this out a lot. So we can force the bass and kick to be louder than our mids are generally. I do think that the kick is, in general, a little bit quiet anyhow. We're going to use that same method I showed you on the last song to identify the volume difference between our kick and our other elements. So let's go ahead and solo our kick. Kick's sitting there right at like -1. Something like that. Let's go ahead and bring in our bass. Where is it? I'm assuming this is the bass, right? Yeah, so that's coming in a little bit too hot and too dynamic, I think. We got to flatten this out a little bit. Otherwise, we're going to have a really hard time placing the volume. I think that's like the theme of today's stream, guys, is like make sure that your instruments are more or less balanced before you start trying to mix, because otherwise you're going to be mixing instruments that are so dynamic that it's impossible to mix them. So we're gonna try to flatten this out a little bit with some compression. Set the attack to 0 and set the ratio up a little bit so that it's crushing the dynamics a little bit here. If we look at this now with a Pro L that we just had, I don't know why I keep deleting it. It's like, let's just leave it open. So we've managed to reduce the dynamics quite a bit. It's still not completely resolved, but at least now it's flatter. Set this to infinite to 1 and set the threshold a little bit lower. So we're treating it more as a limiter now. And we're losing some gain here, so I'm going to give it back like 3 or 4 decibels. So we're losing about an average of like 4, maybe 5. Yeah, so you have a much fuller bass now, and it's not as dynamic. It'll be easier to place. Zin says, Storm is so good. Love the tunes from Morgan's feedback streams last year. The whip is super sick. And Keith streams as well. Yeah, super good. I think he submitted a few times to this stream. It's always super nice. All right, so yeah, flatten it out with some compression. It's going to make it easier to place that bass. I'm going to set this to 0 as a pet peeve of mine, and we're going to turn it up on a track level. I never actually like to have my faders above 0. It's a weird pet peeve thing. It bothers me. Anyway, we don't need the Pro L2 anymore, but I guess I'll leave it on there just so you can see the volume flatten out. Easier to place now. Let's go ahead and go to our master again and take a look at the discrepancy between our kick and bass now. I'm going to name this bass because that's what it is. And then we'll check this out. Okay, so now our bass is hitting pretty consistently here at -6. It has a little bit of range to it, but we're not getting as much dynamic range now. If we check out our kick is pretty consistently here at -2, -5. It's actually more dynamic than I thought. Oh, I had the wrong Pro L selected. Oh my gosh. Okay, so yeah, kick's here at -2. The bass is pretty hot coming in here at like 0. So I'm going to pull the bass down so it's below the kick. Let's give it like a 4 decibel difference. And see how this sounds. It's definitely better already. I'm just going to give this the full 0. You want your kick to be pretty hot anyway. Maybe we'll pull it down like half a decibel. And then let's compare. So yeah, so now we have a good like 3 or 4 decibels of gain difference between our kick and our bass, which is going to make a big difference. I would even say maybe we can go to like 5. And now that the bass is flattened out, you won't have as much time placing that bass mix-wise. Let's compare these again. Yeah, and then we can bring in that mid element that we spent all that time on. Storm says mostly Keat streams lately, but thanks. I think I've done a complete 180 from the old Morgan feedback streams. Slowly working on that. The newer whips have more utilities, way less track volume changes. Yeah, it's problematic to do it all on volume because then you don't have the freedom to change it as much. So these still feel hot. I'm gonna pull these back. I think your master just needs to be a little bit more compressed too. It doesn't feel like it's like glued together as much. So to do that, I'm just going to pull our bass and kick down slightly so that it's more in line with the rest of the track volume. And then we'll just blast out the master slightly. Let's pull this down to like -3. You have a more consistent volume across now. You have Ozone Maximizer. I don't have your Elements one, but what I would do is just this. Set it to like -8, something like that. Does Elements have like different versions? Yeah, it's 1 and 2. Let's try that. Still coming in so hot there at like the upper mids. Pull this back a bit, I think. Maybe it's this one actually. think that you perhaps could introduce a few more elements to this. Feels a little bit empty. But overall, it's sounding really good. Again, on this one, I think maybe a little bit more high-end could help you too. This is like a lot of mids. You could address this on a master level just here. If we just pull down some mids here at like 1.2K and then give it a little bit of high-end. Something like that. I think that I'm going to move on from this project file. We've been on it for a half hour, but I hope that was helpful. I think that it was a very similar story to the other one. Just a matter of balancing the dynamic range of some of your instruments. They were a little bit too dynamic. And it made it more difficult to place, I think. A lot of the instruments were placed in an interesting spot, probably to the loudest section of the song. I would say just reduce the dynamic range and it'll make it easier to set the volume appropriately. I compress almost everything. I wouldn't say everything, but like probably 80% of sounds I compress so that it's easier to place them in a mix. All right, everybody, give Storm a nice little round of applause here. We're going to move on to our final project of the day. This was a great little track. Great work, Storm. And yeah, thank you for sending it. Stupid Spring, I thank you. Seriously appreciate the help. I appreciate it. And I'm glad that I was able to help. All right. So we got one more track today. This one, we don't know if it actually works. I'm missing track spacer, but we should be able to at least get into the project and assess the damage. And if it does work, then we'll do some work on it. Pine Wine, very cool track. Clap, clap, clap. Yes, indeed. All right. Let's go ahead and pull this thing open. This is New Trance Idea 130. I don't know if this is Ableton 10 or 11. If you're still in the chat, man, let me know, and I will open it in either or. I guess I could open up in 10 first, and if it doesn't work, then we'll move to 11. That's always a solution. Yeah, okay, it is an 11 project file. I need Ableton 12 to be like this insane upgrade so that everybody gets it, so I don't have to juggle between 11 and 10 anymore. How are you guys doing this Sunday morning, everyone else? Heard from Wickwire and the others earlier. You guys having a good day? Nice weather? Other small talk things? All right. Here we are. This is an 11 project. This is New Trance Idea. I am missing something. Maybe I do have track spacer. I guess maybe I do. Let's see. It is playing. Why is it not? Oh, something's soloed. Okay, cool. Here we go. I'm going to give it the full decibels just so we can hear it. 0. I do not have track spacer or shaper box. So I'm assuming that this is sonically very different from where it's at currently. what I can do really quick is well, we're just gonna do this for the time being so I can actually hear it right. Especially the bass. Something like that. Storm, I definitely had a good weekend. Wine finally updated live so I could try out the micro tuner, but I spent all day trying to clean up hard drive space. I know that feeling. Alright, I think on this record, we're going to make a few small adjustments that are going to really transform the song. And as a spoiler, it's all volume. All right, man. Well done. I love the ideas here. It's a really cool like progressive trance kind of track. It's sounding good. It's a great starting point. I think that there's a few mix adjustments that will really transform the song for the better. And I want to start off by showing you how I reason that. So first and foremost, we're going to do the same thing I do on all of these tracks, where we look at it on span and we look at it on Pro L, which is a great volume gauge. I use it as a monitor as much as I use it as a limiter. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at our bass and our sub, and then our kick. I think the three of these need to be in tandem to a higher degree than they currently are. Let's go ahead and listen to our kick. Okay. Let's look at our sub individually. Okay, so our sub is down here at -9 with peaks at -6. We can probably flatten that out a little bit, lose the peaks, and it won't change anything. With our kick, this is our main kick. For one thing, that's not in the key of the song, but that's okay. Is there a secondary kick, or is that it? Okay, that's it. So our main kick is hitting here at -6, or roundabouts. If we looked at our bass, let's go ahead and go to our basses. This is what I was hitting. So our bass is now hitting at 0, -2, that kind of range. And if you think about, what makes a great dance song, it's the kick and bass relationship. Your bass is significantly louder than your kick is right now. So he says, I have a sort of electro trance style. Yeah, I love it. It's like Andrew Bayer. So I think the first thing is, now that we've identified this, with very easy to understand data, right? Like you can see that the kick is quieter than our bass. We need to address that. So I think first and foremost, let's go ahead and turn the bass down like 2 or 3 decibels so we have a little bit more headroom to play with. So let's bring it to -6. And let's go ahead and solo that now to see where we're at. So it's at -3 now. Let's see if we can flip this around so that our kick is louder than our bass. And our kick is currently at -6. Let's go ahead and give this like, the difference. That's like 6 decibels. And we'll do that here in the drum rack. So I'll do -6. Okay. It's coming in a little bit hot. I can pull this back a little bit here now. Let's just go ahead and say that's good. Maybe -1. We're hitting the peak here, and I'm not sure how that's happening because that is so not hitting the peak. Maybe there's like a short little transient on the front of this kick or something. Mayan kick. I love Mayan. He does cool stuff. I've got some stuff coming up with Ride relatively soon. You'll hear relatively soon his label. Anyway, now that we've addressed that, let's go ahead and play it with our bass. Probably afford to give the bass a decibel or 2 back. And then on our sub, let's go ahead and make sure that this is sitting in the right spot too. So our sub is a little quiet relative to our other sounds too, as you can see here. So first I want to deal with that big transient peak. That's really sharp, and it's going to throw off the balance of the sound, because if we mix for these peaks, the majority of the sound, which is down here, you can kind of average out. This is like where the majority of the sound is. It's just going to be quieter, like 6 decibels quieter than our peaks. So I want to see if we can chop off some of that peak. You can get away with that pretty easily here with something like a sub. There's no reason to have all of that high or the transient energy there. It's just a legato sub. So what I'm going to do is just apply a limiter. I don't know what you have and what you don't have. I notice you use a lot of Ableton stock, so I'm just going to keep it in the family here. And we're just going to pull this down until we start getting some cut, as you can see. Let's go ahead and take a look. Yep. Peaks are gone. Then we can turn this up the difference. So let's give this like the difference here, say 6 decibels, right? I'm sorry, output gain, not input gain. We got to turn it up after the limiter. Let's give it 6. Yeah. So if you compare that to this, right? Here's the after, right? With everything hitting uniformly at like -3 versus this. You have everything hitting at a high dynamic range between -12 and -6. I mean, if I pulled this back, let's say to -3, right? They should be more or less hitting at the same volume. It's just that you're going to notice this is hitting at -6 and it's flat versus -6 with a lot of dynamics between peak and the average of the sound. So that's the importance of compression, right? And that's kind of, again, been the theme of today, oddly enough. I want to flatten that bass out so it's nice and thick, and then we can more uniformly place it. So if we use our same logic before, our kick should be the loudest thing, and it is. But I want our bass to be right up there with our other bass, and our other bass is hitting at like -3, so I'm going to pull up the sub as well, so it's at -3 as well. And I'll do that here. So again, I'll pull this up to like 6 decibels or something. You have your big kick, you have your sub coming in there, and then we should fill in our bass, right? That's still hot. You get what I'm saying, though. We can probably reduce the dynamic range on this bass as well. Like if we just added a compressor to the group. He says those Mayan kicks have been my go-to for a while. Yeah, they're awesome. Yeah, and I'm just gonna set this basically to a limiter setting, and we're gonna flatten out that main bass as well. Along those lines, and then definitely flatter. Maybe we can actually use a actual limiter for this instead of a compressor. No reason not to at this point. Rather than that, I'm going to turn this down. Let's go ahead and pull up our basses. Oh, where did my Pro L go? That's weird. Well, I'll have to add it again. Pro L2, let's do that. And here we go. Turn off the LFO tool. Give it a little bit more limiting there. And it's more uniform. Sounds good. Let's give it some volume. I don't think you need to do this as much as you think you might. I would actually give back some of that low end as to not like compromise the sound. Pro L is pretty pricey, but definitely seems worth it. My homie Spring Street lives and dies by it as well. Yeah, it's pretty much like the EDM limiter everybody uses. Not intrinsically necessary, but it's definitely like extremely good for a lot of things. So yeah, much fuller that sounds now that we've balanced the sonics a bit. I think rather than boosting your mids like we were doing, I'm going to boost the lows and get some high end. So also, one thing I'm noticing here is that your bass is very mono. If we were to pull up like Isotope Insight, oh, it crashed my DAW. Amazing. Yes, I would like to recover my work. Isotope. Okay, well, let's see what the damage is. I guess Insight doesn't want to load, so we won't use that. Let's try something else. I might have a stereo tool that we can use. Basically, this is extremely mono, to the point where it's like, it's strangely mono. Not sure if you're doing that intentionally, but maybe it's this. Yeah, so against contrary belief, like the main bulk of your bass doesn't have to be mono. The majority of it can be stereo. It actually becomes really strange sonically if you don't have it in stereo. Oops, I just realized that I did not have that on screen while I did that. I just set your width to 100%. It's only your bass that needs to be mono, like your sub, because of how festival systems and stuff treat sub. They treat it on one big mono array rather than a stereo setting. Yeah, so I think that is a something that maybe you don't need to do. If we went into like the individual tracks, if we actually added some stereo information to these higher ones, like the really bright ones. Is this a bright one? Yeah, this is a very bright one. I'm gonna pull this off too, because you're losing that high end fidelity, which is like what I was describing earlier. It kind of gives it that MP3 kind of feeling. If we artificially added some sides to this, like we actually made it stereo. Oh, actually, well, that helps a lot actually. Just stereoizing the amp. But if you add like some reverb or something to add some artificial like width and leave your other bass in like mono, I think it would really contribute. So here it is in the mix. Skip to the drop. Yeah, it just hits more now with like the kick and the bass and balance. Probably give it a little bit more in the high end, but honestly, it sounds fuller. Storm Isotope 10 out of 10 best plugins. Yeah, and they're the most value for your money too. It's almost as if they just keep selling you the same thing year over year. But it's totally worth the money. Anyway, yeah. No, I mean, Isotope does great stuff. It's just, I don't know why it crashed, and the other pet peeve I have with them is like they have like an Elements version and the individual version and the advanced version. It's like, just give me one version so I don't have like different entry levels of the same plugin. It's kind of annoying. To your point, Suvi or Savi, I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm sorry. The Pro L is incredible for this kind of music because you can really push the limit as far as how loud it can be and how glued together the track can be. If we just gave this like 4 or 5 decibels of push on the Pro L limiter, I think it would really add a lot of glue to the song and make it more dense and make it feel better. I'm still not thrilled with how the kick is. Like, I feel like the kick could still be louder, but I feel as though that might be the actual the EQ of the kick rather than the volume of it. Like maybe some more high end or less mid. I'm not thrilled with this particular kick sample. I think it might be out of key. Okay, just for my sanity here, I'm going to check the key because I do think it is out of key, and it's bothering me. That is a G sharp. Could be a G. The song is in whatever that is. C. Okay, so we're going from C to G sharp. That's your one note flat of the root, if that's right. If it's actually a G, then you're two notes flat of the. I'm sorry, not the root, the fifth. So if we transpose it either two up, we could also shoot for the. Let's say the one. Sorry. I'm sorry. Your one note sharp of the fifth. We can also take it to the third, which would be. Sorry, I'm doing this on the piano. You can't see. If we take it down 1, 2, 3, 4 semitones, then it could be the third of the key, which is from C. That's an E. Yeah. C is a difficult key, though. It does not have a great bass response, so it is good that you're picking a kick that's not in the key of C. We just have to pick like the most relevant replacement in key. So let's see. It's like pretty sure. Let's take this down. What was I doing? Let's try -4. If that doesn't work, then we'll do -1. Zempra, that kick be bussin'. That might be too low. Let's go with -1. So Suvi says the kick, or is it Sovi? I still don't know how to pronounce it, but Suvi, I'm assuming. The key is supposed to be in C sharp minor. Is this note incorrect then? Oh, it is C sharp. Got it. I thought that was a C. Whoops. Okay. If it's in C sharp, then it's. So that is the key. If it is C sharp. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we could shoot for -3. That might be right. What's your third? I just feel like the kick is too high. It could also be taken as a G as well, like we were saying. So instead of -3, let's do -4. Let's do -3. That's the third compared to this. That feels better. And of course, we're not getting your side chain, so I can't really give you an opinion on that. But with the LFO tool, let's see how this sounds now. As like a replacement. think we definitely need that sidechain on our sub too. Just copy it. But yeah, I think that we made some progress here. I think just turning up your kick and you're balancing your bass and your sub out is really going to improve the record a lot. Suvi says, I'm tone deaf when I produce. I usually just use Ableton's scale feature when I write. This is surprisingly musically rich if you're tone deaf, man. That's impressive. It's inspiring to get over that physical ailment and be able to write something this good. I know it's prohibiting for a lot of people for music. So it sounds really good for that. With that in mind, it sounds really good. It's even more impressive with that in mind, I should say. It's not good because you're doing that. Anyway. Yeah, I'm liking how that's sounding. So that is definitely feeling better. There's still a lot of mixing stuff we could do on this, but for the sake of time, I think I'm going to call it a wraps on this one. We spent about 30 minutes on each of these songs today, longer than usual, but I think that I think it was really nice to actually dive into each of these songs for an extended period of time and really show you the nuance of why I do things. I hope you got some value out of this, all of you. If you have any final questions for me, hit me in the comments below, or on the chat, I guess, on Twitch. And yeah, I'm actually going to be doing a meetup call over on Discord this afternoon, starting at 2 p.m., I believe. It might be actually 3. I will have to double check that really quick. Let's see. I can't remember when my own things are happening. Amazing. Yeah, okay, so it is 2 p.m. We're doing a meetup call over on Discord immediately following this for patrons of the channel. If you want to meet your fellow students and some other cool artists that hop in, you can definitely hop in over on Discord immediately following this stream. Everybody give Suvi a nice little clap. A little clap, clap, clap for a great record. And also everybody else who submitted today. Amazing work. Like I said, I'm going to move over to my main camera now again. Like I said a moment ago, we're doing a meetup on Discord following this stream at 2 p.m. It's 1:30 right now. I will see any of you who want to join over on Discord, discord.gg/JulianGray. It's for patrons of the channel. And also, if you want to submit your project file to the next stream I do like this, make sure to go over to patreon.com/JulianGray and you can submit your project files over there. I do these every month on the second to last Sunday of each month. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the stream and I hope you got some really good feedback from this. If you've submitted your project today, you can download the project file for this following today's stream. Zempro says, when's the Rhythm project stream? Whenever you send me a Rhythm project to work on, I will work on it. I would love to do that. I love bass music. All right, everybody, I will see you guys in a half hour over on Discord. And thank you guys on YouTube and Twitch for tuning in. It's always a great time talking to you. Hopefully I can get some new music streams going or some music YouTube videos coming in the near future. I have some really cool stuff to announce. You guys are going to be really hyped. All right, I will see you guys over on Discord, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.